piece is called Die Young, as they said. The trigger warnings are dead friends, suicide, police brutality, the Pulse shooting, homophobia, the AIDS crisis, suicidal ideation, mental illness, self-harm, potential loudness, hate crime, murder, and there is a chance that I might cry, so if that freaks people out, I'm letting you all know, okay? So here we go. Many queer people experience Pride as a time of mourning. As we march in the streets, dance in our bars, and watch our favorite divas belt out our favorite songs, we can't help but ache for the empty space left behind by those we've lost. Still, in spite of the grief, I, as many others, do my best to partake in Pride while remembering friends who died at raw green ages that make members of the 27 Club seem ancient. I remember a few years ago, some friends of a friend from out of town wanted to witness the Pride Parade. I went along, having nothing better to do, but found myself miserable, beside myself, and riled in that bitter, bipolar Bambi Lake kind of way. Riled at my ostensibly apolitical acquaintances who cheered for the rainbow-painted cop cars as they drove past throwing confetti because I think the chief of police is a lesbian, as if that excuses systematic police brutality, as if this hypothetical lesbianism erases the truth of who our foremothers stood up against at Stonewall, as if a cute little rainbow heart sticker on a badge wipes clean our entire history. I watched the floats drive merrily by with fans and flags and flyers handed out by figureheads of corporations that don't offer medical insurance and refuse to hire trans people. Between the glitter-encrusted party floats populated by dancing drag queens holding Svedka bottles came scores of signs carrying the names of the dead, suicide statistics, and the lyrics, "Too much blood has flown from the wrists of children shamed for those they chose to kiss," under a painting of held hands braceleted in dripping fluorescent red finger paint that may as well have been real human hemoglobin the way it made my brain scream. I swallowed my grief and cast my gaze elsewhere until that portion of the parade passed by. Eventually, my friends decided to go explore the festival setup. I followed their lead, only to find a whole lot of unremarkably average fare. Corn dogs, turkey legs, cheap-ass lemonade, and expensive-ass cups. Nothing to distinguish that this was a queer event and not just some nondescript carnival. That was until I turned the corner to see the booth for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention with all the same statistics from the finger-painted signs. Alongside the stats were posters for a memory quilt project to remember our dead, like the AIDS quilt stitched to commemorate countless lives lost. People who should have lived long enough to be looked up to by these kids who are now killing themselves instead. These new quilts unequivocally mirrored those that blanketed the length of the National Mall, not far from the FDA, whose inaction sealed their fate. Queer people murdered by their government through cruelty, negligence, indifference, and erasure. I'd say what's old is new again, but did it ever really stop? No, it's only mutated over time. We're still dying at an epidemic rate, even if the main causes of death have shifted. I filled my backpack with information pamphlets and brochures on how you can add your loved one's name to the suicide memory quilt. I thanked the volunteers in my broken voice and ran as fast as I could to distance myself from the chipper, cheerful crowds as I felt the mounting panic attack rise in my ribcage. I feel like I'm underwater. I feel like I'm underwater. I feel like I'm underwater. Anyway, I got to Washington Square Park and sequestered myself behind some bushes so I could weep in peace as I contemplated making patches for those I've lost. A friend discovered me crumpled up on the ground, and before I could hide my tears, brought me to my feet and gave me a hug. It helps in moments like that to be reminded that not all my friends are dead. And don't get me wrong, I know I'm not Tommy Boatwright with a drawer full of torn-out Rolodex cards to commemorate countless close friends. I have my triumvirs, and the many friends of friends I mourn by proxy. I remember returning to NYC after the Pulse massacre to see a mural with the names of the 49 people murdered painted on a brick wall along West 8th Street. That mural was sanctioned to stay up for a year, but by September it was half-assedly painted over. When I looked into why, sources cited Barnes & Noble allegedly having bought this space to erect a store. But Barnes & Noble never moved in. Nothing did. I spoke to my wizened gay sexuality studies professor about this. I went in during his office hours, red-faced and raging, on the verge of tears, ranting about how the city refuses to keep its bare minimum promises and has no respect for the dead. He looked up at me over his glasses and calmly replied, "You need to pick your battles. If you get this angry every time something like this happens, you'll wear yourself out." My professor made the devaluation of queer lives feel like an even more inevitable fact of life. More than I thought if the murals for our dead being destroyed isn't big enough to be heartbroken over. I got upset at his response at the time, but my professor isn't wrong to prioritize helping the living over grieving the dead. But however misplaced my energy may be, I know I'm better at the latter. Still, I know I'm lucky to have queer elders. It's a privilege to be able to reach out to them for advice and listen, regardless of whether or not I agree. In fact, misunderstanding begot the most insulting disagreement. I found out only after she died that a mindset I erroneously attributed to Mother Flawless Sabrina actually came from the person interviewing her in an article I'd read. Kids these days don't know what it's like to lose all their friends. A remark made by someone my own age who was clearly blessed with more luck than most people I know. I remember those words ringing in my ears on one of my dead friend's birthdays when, while in line to order his favorite drink in his memory, I scrolled through my Facebook feed only to discover that yet another one of my friends had died. I discovered her death the same way I discovered all my friends' deaths, through social media elegies that look like just another pretty picture until you read the description and see the miles of condolences in the comments. I broke down and collapsed in the middle of the Grand Central Starbucks, making a scene and blocking everyone's way, but far too distraught to care. All I could do was stare at my phone. It didn't feel real. It never feels real. But I know from losing 2 friends before her that death is the realest thing there is. I feel like I'm underwater. I feel like I'm underwater. I feel like I'm underwater. Anyway, I sat blank and immovable for who knows how long until I got my bearings enough to pretend to be a person. I called my mom, got Sebastian's eggnog latte, and made my way to Bethesda Fountain, where I redistributed the flores para los muertos once gathered for 1 dead friend to 2 more who had died within the last 3 months. I stood in front of the statuary angel and keened for my friends. My sadness quickly turned to anger, and I found myself lashing out against this notion that the young don't have to mourn anymore, that we're not dying at rates faster than we can keep up with. Of course it's better now than it was at the apex of the AIDS crisis, but please don't say we don't know what loss feels like. I remember assisting with my community college's drag show to raise money for the Trevor Project. Everything seemed hunky-dory until the show was over and the tone-setting anthem the organizers chose as the celebratory curtain call song to usher everyone into the Pride weekend was Kesha's hit single, Die Young. Clearly no one had thought of the implications, the message they were sending with this song choice. Or, perhaps, they knew exactly what they were doing. I mean, amateur drag queens can only bring in so much for the Trevor Project, and it isn't responsible to get people's hopes up too high. They were just being practical. And at the very least, suicidal queers can't jam up the hotlines if they're drunk off their asses, bedecked in rainbows and dancing to Kesha. I mean, it's like they know our odds. And if we're gonna die young, we better live like gods. I hear your heartbeat to the beat of the drum. Oh, what a shame that you came here with someone. So while you're here in my arms, let's make the most of the night like we're gonna die young. 'Cause we're gonna die young. We're gonna die young. Let's make the most of the night 'cause we're gonna die young. Hearts out our minds, run until we're out of time. Wild child's looking good, living hard just like we should. Don't care who's watching us when we tear it up. That magic that we've got nobody can touch. Looking for some trouble tonight. Hey babe, take a walk on the wild side. Might be the last night of our lives. So we'll keep dancing till we die. Just keep dancing till we die. Go on dancing till we die. But is that all there is? Is that all there is? If that's all there is, my friends, then let's keep dancing. Let's booze and have a ball, if that's all there is. So let's keep dancing. Let's just keep dancing. Yeah, we'll keep dancing till we die. And I should scroll their names on a city wall, but I'm a fucking clown. I'm making jokes so I don't drown. I feel like I'm underwater. 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 Like the whole world is underwater. Like I'm screaming out underwater. I feel like I'm underwater these days. Anyways, that's the end.